quick little intermission here, guys. Before we get started in the video, I'm really excited. I'm going to Texas September 15th to 17th. This is San Antonio, Texas. We're going to go to Bare Bones Garage, Christian Sosa Metal Works, as well as my friend Chris Galan from San Antonio. Bare Bones Garage is his place. We're all going to do a metal shaping and chop class together, 15th to 17th. You can go online right now at sosametalworks.com and you can sign up. There's only 12 spots available. They're going to go like that. And I cannot wait to see you guys there. We're going to have so much fun. We've got Friday night, we're going to have a barbecue. There's going to be a bunch of hot rods that are going to come out at Bare Bones Garage. Then Saturday all day, Sunday all day, we are going to chop a super sweet little Model A sedan, as well as do hand metal shaping techniques. We're going to go over shrinking, stretching, forming, planishing, English wheel, kind of a little bit of everything. As a beginner metal shaping course for anybody who's interested. So hopefully I'll see you there, and let's get into this video. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Make It Custom. I'm Carl Fisher. As you can tell, the shop has changed a little bit. Well, let's take a walk. Let's take a walk. Bring my coffee. This is my good friend Dan's truck. I've known him since high school. He's had this truck since high school, and he's picking away at it. Very proud of him. Good job, Dan. It's come so far in like the past 6 months that it's unrecognizable. So yeah, actually take a quick, let's highlight this guy for a second. So custom 4-link. He did coilover mount bracket, the body is mounted, the box is mounted. He's working on this stuff right now. He's getting it done. He's getting it done. Good job, Dan. And this whole area got kind of cleaned out because we've got more of like a sheet metal shaping type area there now. We've brought the Roadster into the center because we're gonna have to do some chassis work on that as well. Steering box mount, that type of thing might be handy to go up and down with it. We've got the baby Buick here. Dan actually is pushing me in the next couple weeks to try and just at least get a gas pedal and a brake pedal on this thing so that we can toot this around. Not much changed over here, but this area did change a little bit. We took all the machines that are over there now out of this area, so everything's just a little bit easier to use and work on and that kind of thing. Yeah, that's that. Let's get into this video. So what we're gonna do today is we are going to do some hand metal shaping. This is stuff that you guys can do at home. We're gonna use very simple tools, and we're gonna do compound curves. So I wanna just not make just a bowl, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a panel like this on the Zephyr. This is something that I did in the class with Brent in Manitoba. We did the kind of a private class for his friends. We didn't put it out to everybody because there was enough people like kind of within his car circles that came to this one-day metal shaping workshop that we did while I was in Manitoba. So one of the things we did was we did paper pattern, we did shrinking stump, and just kind of like hand metal shaping, a little bit of English wheel to make a convex panel like this for something like a fender, something that's a little bit more transferable to skills that you guys would need. You know, it's kind of easy to make a bowl, so let's make stuff that actually fits cars. So we're gonna focus a little bit more on that kind of learning on the channel, stuff that hopefully is very transferable to your own projects, no matter what it is. That's what today's gonna be. Hand metal shaping, simple tools, paper patterning, mother tucker, shrinking stump, and a little bit of English wheel. So don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. Let's get into it. Okay, first thing we're gonna do is start off with our paper pattern. The type of paper that you use for your paper pattern, you can kind of use anything. There's nothing too special. I find that it works a little bit easier for what we're trying to do with thinner paper. The thinner the paper, the easier it is to kind of like grab a little bit of a wrinkle. If you're doing very harsh shapes, maybe thicker paper might be a little bit easier. This is what we're gonna use. This is just Home Depot shipping paper. It really doesn't matter too much where we pick, but I'm gonna pick a spot from here to here. I'm gonna have my panel stop right there, and I'm also gonna probably leave enough to put a flange on it so that we can do a curved flange. So what we're gonna do is lay out our material. And Elio always just knows exactly what I need. So we're first off gonna get just kind of a rough idea of how much material we need. Just feel for our curve here. Something like that. Kind of gonna go slightly approximate because we don't really know exactly how big it's gonna be yet. Now, I'm just gonna mark on the car where that lines up to so that we kind of know. Magnets are super handy to have around always, whenever we're doing any kind of sheet metal stuff, any kind of patterning. These are just Amazon, super cheap refrigerator magnets, like for arts and crafts. So I buy them on there really cheap. And we're gonna call this, obviously this is the top, we're gonna call this the rear of the car. You guys didn't see that, but direct hit. Okay, so right now I'm kind of like feeling for the high point of this curve, you know, this here. And I feel like it's probably, the highlight line might be kind of in this area. So all of my wrinkles are gonna start here. Like, see all this extra material? Those are all the shrinks that need to happen from this side out that way. Now this way, there are some shrinks that need to happen as well. You can see that wrinkle to pull that in. It's a bit, so we're gonna definitely have a few shrinks in here to try and get this curve to happen. By shrinking this way, it is essentially getting this curve in it. Because, you know, like if you were to look down the side of this, this is a little bit flat. Like there might be a little bit of curve this way, but it's really not much, if any. The curve is happening, you know, this way and here, this way. So you can think about trying to make this type of a shape, how this would have to pinch in to help that. It's the same deal here. So we've got a bunch of extra material. We're gonna put some wrinkles into the material here. We're gonna kind of, actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna mark this a little better. I'm gonna line this up. Tuck this in so that I can really get a line on it. See all these wrinkles happening? That's all of our shrinks, all the way along there. So right now I'm just kind of making small wrinkles that are gonna pull this flat. So once you've got wrinkles in there, you want them to be slightly evenly spaced. Like these are all relatively evenly spaced. They're all relatively the same bit of a crossover. Like there's really not that much when you spread it over 5 shrinks, right? But we want to know approximately where are these shrinks landing? Like where do they stop going? So I'd say it's probably right around here where these actually end up stopping. So that's the kind of information I'm trying to get from the paper right now, is just how far are these shrinks going? And that's directly gonna relate to exactly where we're gonna put our tucks. So right here, I think I probably only am gonna need a couple of short tucks. Like it's kind of tough to see in this spot. These distance might actually be a little bit longer. Yeah. Because this is so flat, yeah, I think that I'm just kind of guessing right now, but we're gonna need a couple of small tucks that go relatively deep to kind of get into this area. If not, we could just develop that with the English wheel as well by stretching the center. But we're definitely gonna start by doing a bunch of tucks here and maybe a couple on this side. Okay. Okay. So today I'm just going to use 18 gauge. I always use 18 gauge for body sheet metal. Traditionally, this is probably 19 gauge. A lot of American cars are 19 gauge. Newer cars are a lot thinner. It's kind of all over the place, but it's hard to get 19 gauge. So I always use 18 rather than 20 because I just don't feel comfortable replacing metal with thinner metal. It just doesn't make sense to me, you know? So yeah. Another time, these magnets really help is just for kind of holding your piece down as you're tracing it. So we flatten this piece out completely, the wrinkles also. That gives us our perimeter size. And then for flanges like this, I will kind of trace it once, and then I'll just trim off the actual line that I made. Okay, now I'm going to just mark a few spots for these shrinks. We come to about there. These things all come to this general vicinity, so there. This is just a guide, right? Like the first pass, this is what we're gonna do, and we'll kind of assess the situation as we keep going. One thing that you're gonna hear me repeat a lot is that the arrangement of the panel needs to be formed every time you check, which means that you wanna actually put the shape into it, and then you wanna knock around the shape until it's as close as possible. It might not be fitting on the edges everywhere, but you make it fit as close as possible. That is panel arrangement. You wanna check it in the same spot every time. And the reason being is that way you can see your progress, and you can consistently be checking so that you know that you need a little bit more here, you do that, and then you rearrange it to put it back. Because every time you go to the wheel or every time you hit it with a hammer, it is going to slightly change its arrangement, which is kind of like form. Like you take the piece and you bend it in half, you didn't put any shape into it, you just rearranged where the shape is. It might, you know, distort the panel in different ways. So it's important to keep that arrangement consistent. So next up, we're just gonna cut this out. I'm just gonna use the Beverly shear here. This type of throatless shear is pretty handy. They're not inexpensive to acquire, but if you're patient enough like me, it might take you 15 years like it took me, but I found one for a good deal. What's neat about these shears is that they can they're called a throatless shear. So it can actually do outside curves or inside curves. I don't know if it could do like a wild inside curve, maybe. All right. Actually, because of how a shrinking stump works, we're gonna be doing it on this side, flipped over side. So I have to transfer these onto the back side, which thankfully for the bleed through of Sharpie, we can totally see that. I'm gonna go along this kind of a line. All right, so what we're gonna use to put these in, you're gonna be amazed at how fast these tucks go in. They are relatively easy to be accurate with them by doing it a certain way. I'm just gonna grab my gloves. So this is what I love about tuck shrinking, okay? Is that it happens very fast and it's deadly easy to do. Anybody can learn this like immediately, basically. And it's something that I just didn't realize was kind of a relatively easy thing to do. As you can see, you know, this piece, if we were to just bend it, like, you know, it's touching here, but it's sitting up, like it needs all the shrinks, right? So what we're gonna do, and this is something I didn't realize was really a thing. I've had some people that know of tuck shrinking and they know of metal shaping techniques and they do hand metal shaping, and they didn't realize, nor did I, you know, I didn't realize this technique either, that tuck shrinking can be very accurate. Rather than just going to a concave bowl and starting to smash the metal in there, which works, it will make wrinkles in the metal and you hammer the wrinkles out and that is shrinking. But if you want to be accurate, like we've created a roadmap of shrinking here. We know that's what needs to happen because the paper told us so. So what I like to do is I like to put a crease in every Sharpie line that is a shrink. We've said that I count 7 shrinks on here. We want one there, 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 there. So one at a time, I'm gonna put these in exactly where they want to go, or exactly where we want them to go. So check this out. I just line this up to an edge, that to an edge. Just give it a little knock. Do the same thing on this side. Now we've kind of made this little peak. We've weakened the material right in that spot, right? So now we can go to this Mother Tucker shrinking stump, and I use the little bit pointed end, and I'm gonna hammer it right at the end of that. And that tuck will be exactly where we want it. See, we've popped it exactly on the line, right? That's exactly where it is. So if you want, you can kind of reshape that a little bit to make it a little bit more accurate. There it is. So now that tuck, we hammer out using the little bit fatter end. We start from the inside, work our way out. And because the bowl shape is holding each side on an angle, when the bowl shape is opposing the peak of the tuck, that is what is forcing the sheet metal together. So when you hit the top of the peak of the tuck with the hammer, and that peak is like this, the forces are going out, but the bowl is counteracting that force by holding it in this type of a shape. So this peak has to go together. That's how shrinking works. So that's what we're gonna do along here. We're gonna pop 5 tucks in the exact same way. When I run them out like this. Closer to the end, it gets a little bit tighter, right? Like it's actually making this material thicker. So we go over to here. We've physically made that shrink happen into the material. So I'm gonna actually throw some earplugs in, and we're gonna do the rest of these, and then we'll see where we're at. All right, so we got a bunch of tucks in on this side. You can see how nice of a curve we're getting. We're getting this curve this way with those tucks. I haven't checked it back onto the car yet, but what you're gonna notice here is that we've got a very long tuck that we've put in here, and I've knocked it around to create this tuck, but to chase that out in the bowl, because it's so close to this edge, that's gonna be a little bit difficult. It's gonna wanna bend that edge. So because we've weakened this spot, that's where we're gonna pop the tuck, but if there's a weaker area, the metal's gonna give in that area. So we're gonna use a slightly different technique to get this shrink in here. I'm gonna make that peak a little bit more pronounced. I'm gonna see if I've got my tucking fork right here somewhere. Elio found it. So this is just to help kind of pronounce, collect some material like this, right? So we did crease the top, so it is putting the crease right in there. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna close the tuck. So you can still use this hammer for it. Back this hammer up, or back this up here. So because we're not gonna be able to hammer this out in here, and like I was saying before, the reason being is that because we're so close to an edge, it's such a huge tuck, it's gonna just kind of bend in different ways. So what we're gonna do instead is that we're gonna close the end of the tuck. So this whole bend is kind of holding that shape in a peak. And what our objective now is to take the mother tucker hammer, and we're gonna hammer this on a kind of a 45-degree angle down, and it's gonna force the end of it together, and we're gonna flatten it out. That's going to capture the tuck, okay? So as you see that, that's what you wanna see. You wanna see it folding in on itself. So we're trying to hammer a flat spot here while leaving this bubble of information in the metal. So if you see how I've flattened that material there? Right in this spot, it is much thicker. We've actually pushed that material in together and it's much thicker. Now we've got a frame of material holding that bubble. So that bubble has nowhere to go but in on itself. So we're capturing the tuck by flattening the end. It really helps when you have a hammer that is softer than your base material. And we're also not doing this on steel, we're doing this on nylon as well. Nylon has very good grip strength when it comes to holding onto a piece of steel versus Delrin or UHMW. There's other kinds of plastics out there that are a little bit slipperier. They're great for making dies out of, but nylon is great for hitting and compressing and shrinking material because it's not going to stretch it when it's softer than the actual material. So now when I hammer this out, it's going to shrink in on itself, okay? So we're just going to kind of flatten that out a little bit. Now we can work this. Now this has gone and shrunk itself because we captured that tuck. We're gonna do the exact same thing here on time lapse. Okay, so what I am seeing here so far is we're a little bit out of arrangement. We've got to pop this up a little bit. It's kind of hitting right in the center. I believe that we're probably going to have to do a little bit of blocking or a little bit of stretching in the area that we haven't really touched, where I was talking about being the highlight line, kind of the center of the curve. So that is where we were essentially. So we're actually fitting pretty good, but when I'm feeling around, I can tell that right here is the spot that it's touching first. I'm rocking it around. So I can rock it this way, and I can rock it this way, and it's all pivoting off of right here, which is the spot that we haven't touched yet. So what we're gonna do next, there's a few things that we could do. We could run this through the English wheel and just kind of give it a wash over, which we're gonna absolutely do at some point. But the other thing we can do is we can stretch this area a little bit to raise it. By stretching it, we're adding surface area, and if you think about blowing a bubble, when a bubble gets bigger, its surface area is growing, right? From going flat to being convex. So we're gonna have to grow this bubble a little bit in surface area by stretching this right here. So what I'm gonna use for that, another very simple thing, just a sandbag. And you can literally take a glove and just put sand in it and crimp the end with a vice grip. Like, you don't need even a regular sandbag or a real specific sandbag. You can just go to any old sandbag. All you're trying to do is just have some sand that will take the shape of the hammer to allow it to stretch the material as you hit it. So I'm gonna go right in the center here where I felt was touching first, and you can see that it's kind of flat in this area because it's unaffected by our shaping thus far. So I'm just gonna go ahead. So every little dent that I'm making with the hammer on the sand is a little bubble, and it's just growing the surface area a little bit. On a microscopic level, it is thinning the material out as well. So now we just kind of rearrange it, try and put it back close enough to the shape that we want. You can kind of see how dimpled and how, rough this is looking. It's gonna look like that when you're using hand shaping tools. And now we're certainly closer. I can push it down and be touching in most areas. I can see that there is a little bit of extra material kind of hanging off the end here. This could be because we need another shrink in this area. By looking at it, it looks like there's actually a few more shrinks on this end than there is here. So we could perhaps put another shrink here to bring this end down. The other option is that we could actually put a shrink or two in this way, and that would also bring this end down, which is, I think, more or less what I'm gonna do, because this is already kind of being a little bit, let's just have a look here. Yeah, if I push all that down, I've got just a little bit of shrink to happen. So I'm gonna put one tuck in here because I can tell that it's touching the fender up to this point, and then it gets a little bit flat. You can also look and see that if you're sight lining it with my eye, we've got a nice curve here, and then it kind of flattens out. Just means there's a little bit of extra material in that spot. So I'm gonna give it one tuck right there. Chase that guy out. Now when we sight line with my eye again, this is the line we're going for, and it continues down. So it should fit better. Just rearrange this a little bit. A little bit of arrangement. Okay, we were actually looking pretty good. So now that it's close and we've just got a little bit of surface area to kind of go and smooth out, the panel is going to change a little bit. This is just very early stages of this panel. Now I would like to go to the English wheel. You could planish this out by hand without using an English wheel if you didn't have one. In fact, let's do a small area just to show that it can be done. We'll do that on the stake dollies, but for the rest of it, I'm just gonna wash over it without adding too much shape with the English wheel. The English wheel is a great planishing tool because you can you can go with very light pressure and you can feel the wheel just hitting the tops of bumps and being flat on the bottoms of them. And you can just kind of wash over the whole panel, go a little bit tighter, and you can keep doing that until it smooths it all out. It might shift the panel and rearrange it a little bit, but it will smooth the whole panel out. So yeah, actually, let's go to just the dollies, just to show anybody who's not got an English wheel that you can smooth this out with dollies. We'll just use this one for now. We're only going to do a small area. You can use a soft hammer or a hard hammer at this. If you use a softer hammer for this part, it'll get some of the rougher shape out of it before you go to a hard planishing hammer and do a million little hits. But you can just kind of go along. So we've kind of smoothed out this small area here as much as like a rubber hammer is going to do, or a nylon hammer. Then you go to something that's closer to a quote-unquote planishing hammer. All right, so something planishing hammer is just a relatively flat head. And so you just go along and it's just tons of little hammer hits. You want to choose a dolly that's close to the shape that you're trying to achieve. This one's a little bit on the curved side for this area that we're working, but you'll get the idea. And it's okay to hear the ting of hitting hammer on dolly. The reason why you want a hammer that matches your dolly, that matches the tin, is just so that it's squishing it into the shape that you desire, right? So same thing for up here. Like this is one of our tucks. Because there's a little bit of a curve on this dolly, we're hitting the highs down to the lows. That's what's planishing us out. And then we achieve a nice smooth surface. So, okay, we're gonna go to the English wheel now, or as the English would call it, the wheeling machine. It's important to choose the correct radius of wheel when you are using the wheeling machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my radius gauge. So when you're wheeling, especially if you're trying to planish something out, but this kind of works for all wheeling, you always want to use the shallowest radius you can. And what I mean by that is if I were to run the wheel this way, what is this radius? This is, I'll show you guys on the outside here. What is this, 6? It's pretty much a number 6, right? Something that is that way. It's definitely not a 6 this way though. It's much less, right? Is it a 12? It's kind of a 12, but a little bit shallower. So we might even call that a 24. It's in between a 12 and a 24. Let's check the car as well. This will give us kind of a more accurate representation. Yeah, I would say it's closest to a 24, but it's definitely less than a 12. So in order to flatten the piece out, you want to always choose the shallowest so that it covers the most surface area of hitting the highs down and the lows up. The top anvil's gonna hit the high stuff, the lower anvil's gonna hit the low stuff. So you don't wanna go with a sharper die, also because it'll have less contact patch and be more likely to stretch. So if we're just washing over it, we want the shallowest possible anvils on the wheeling machine. So I'm gonna go pick a very shallow anvil. I don't have every anvil ever, so I'm gonna have to choose whatever I can. So it looks like I have one that's dead flat. That one looks like a 12. No, that one's even sharper than a 12. What's on here? Okay, it looks like 12 is actually the shallowest one. So because we're in between a 12 and a 24, that's totally fine. I'll be actually smoothing this out this way. And you can actually change the arrangement of the panel to make things even flatter. Like if this was like a 6 somewhere, you might be able to bend it in such a way where it makes it flatter, right? And when it becomes flatter, you can use a flatter wheel and it will planish out nicer. So we're gonna just keep this kind of in its arrangement because it's very similar. And as far as tension goes, feel this slipping around in there. That's too loose. You want it to be a little bit tighter so that it at least is tracking, but you can hear that it's doing work, right? It's knocking down those highs. See, with just a few hits, you can see where the wheel's hitting on the high spots. So I'm just gonna track over, oops, the whole panel here. The more we go through, the looser it's gonna get. See how I can go side to side now? It means it's done its work. It's hit the highs down and the lows up to this pressure now. So we add a little bit of pressure to the wheel and we do it again. It's touching a little bit right there. I think we might have a little bit much in a couple of spots, maybe. Oh no, it needs a little bit more blocking here, for sure. We're touching there, and a little bit there. So we're gonna go to the sandbag. Just gonna move this. Throw that one on the table, yeah. Where did I also say it was touching? Like right in here? Yeah. It's pretty simple. Like the spots that are touching first, if your edges are not touching, and some center places are, those just need to be stretched out, right? You're putting the piece on, it's touching in a spot, you want that piece to grow a little bit, so you flip it over, you just bang it out. It's very simple. So let's just have another look. We didn't go all the way with the English wheel, we just wanted to get it kind of smoothed out enough that we could check it. Every time you want to arrange it and put it back in the same spot that you got it. So that's why we've got our marks on the fender here. And I'm looking to this Sharpie line to make sure that we're still on the body where we want it to be. Right now, feels like we're kind of rocking on right here. So we're gonna give that a little bit more. Okay. Yeah, now we're fitting pretty decent. Now what? A little bit of arrangement. I think we have a little too much stretch right in this side one that we did. Sorry, not stretch, a little bit too much shrink. I think I did a little bit of a heroic tuck there, so we might have to stretch a little bit of that back out. You can do that in a multitude of ways, one of which is if you have a stretching hammer. That's what this is, this little hammerhead looking guy. This is a stretching hammer, linear stretch hammer. So as you can imagine, when you use this hammer, pinching the material like this, it's going to want to push the material out along that line. That's the linear stretch part of that. So if I want to add a little bit of stretch to this area, I don't want to stretch too much out, but I do want to stretch a little bit because I know that I overdid it in that one spot. Just get the edge a little more. That's going to let go of some of that shape and calm this little area down. So I'm just going to go back to the English wheel. We're going to just smooth it out a little bit. You'll notice I'm on a slight angle. The slight angle is strategic. It's like kind of like a crosshatch pattern, more of like a diamond crosshatch pattern. Many metal shapers that I've listened to and talked to, they all seem to like that type of a pattern. There are some guys that will they'll only wheel in one direction. And to me, that's a little bit crazy because it's much easier to do a crosshatch pattern and kind of like run over and smooth out your lines of your wheel, but everybody's kind of got a different way. Okay, let's go have a look now. I do see a little bit of a low spot right there. Right in this spot here, I see a bit of a low. I'm just gonna tap that out because I know it's gotta come out. Where is it? Right about there. Just wash over it again. All right. Once again, it's the arrangement, right? You gotta get the arrangement. Looks to me like we need a little bit more curve here. A little bit of a bend this way, actually. That. Sometimes the arrangement's really tricky because it might steer you in the wrong direction if you don't have it set right, you know? Like right now, this panel needs a little bit of a twist. And sometimes it looks like it needs a bend and not a twist, you know? So you gotta expect to take some time to play around with it to get an accurate representation of how far along the shape is. So right now, we are very close. I would say we are very close. We're still not quite touching right here. It feels like that's rocking off of right there. So we might need, yep, I can see that. That's a little bit of a flat spot in this area. That's part of what's holding that up. So we could do a tiny thing right there on the other side. So we're gonna block that out a little bit. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna trim this so that I don't have to keep jamming it in. Because the body does kind of turn in at that point. So let me just see where this is at. Go right there. Okay. That's gonna be tough, isn't it?
Just a little bit.
Wow. I'm actually impressed that it's not messing it up.
It's just slicing through.
I love that shear. Okay. A little bit bent from the shear. Try and get that back. It's a little bit of crown where we don't need it. It feels like there's a little bit of a pocket right here. I can try and force it in on itself a little bit. There. Now we're cooking with gas, you know? So close. Just needs a little bit of tweaking. Oh, there it is.
Maybe if you could you shrink there to pull that in a little bit?
Yeah, you definitely. I'm not sure where it needs it. Sitting. I think it's still this a little bit. It's so minute. We're talking like 1/16 of an inch here now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit of bend. That might have got it. Yeah, there. She's touching. You just see. Still a little bit here. Yeah, that's that, man. Okay, another final wash with the English wheel. Just gonna back off the pressure a little bit because I want to go very light. Don't really want to affect. When you're using the English wheel to planish like this, you always want to kind of have a look at what the contact patch is of the wheel, and you just want to just keep kind of going going half of that, half of that, half of that to track, and that's what's going to get you a nice finish. You're also going to go at a slight angle so that once you get to the other side, you can diamond hatch across. So now I'm going to go back with the diamond, call it like a 30-degree angle or so. Sometimes you can feel a little bit of a bump, so you might want to add a little bit of pressure one way or another to try and roll that bump out. I think I got this one. Yep. Don't feel it anymore. This is where your dyes come into play a little bit as well with your surface finish. If you see some people wheeling and their material looks like chrome afterwards, it's because they've polished their dyes, or they've got really nice, super hard dyes that hold a polish, and that because the die or the anvil, the wheel, is harder than the base material, it will transfer its polish. So it'll essentially polish your material strictly by imprinting its surface finish onto your surface finish, being that your material is softer. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I'm relatively happy with that. Let's go have a look. Little bit of alignment. A little bit. Well, there it is. That's kind of it. You know, we could tip this flange now if we like, but the purpose of this video was mostly to just show you that with hand tools you can get very good patch panels with convex curves and three-dimensional shapes with just hand tools. The Mother Tucker shrinking stump and hammer to get those tucks in. Like I said, we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and one extra one here. 8 total tucks with a hand hammer, only 8 of them, very simply, and we were able to achieve the shape. So we could go a little bit further and we could tweak this, like keep tweaking it around. If I was gonna weld this in right now, I would take it a little bit further. I would tip this edge and just make sure that it's as close as I can get it. I mean, if you welded this in right now, it would already be a great patch. And after welding, there's going to be a little bit of distortion, a little bit of planishing to do as well that you could take care of more and more. But essentially, the closer your patch is before you weld it, the better it's going to turn out, the more accurate it's going to be. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it for you. Thank you, Elio, behind the camera. And if you're interested in a Mother Tucker shrinking hammer and stump kit, or either of them separately, they are available on the website, japhandskustoms.com. If you're within continental US or Canada, I'm offering free shipping on them right now. So get over while supplies last. We've got lots in stock, ready to ship. I know on the website it might say 2 to 4 weeks, but they're ready to ship right now. So thanks a lot for watching Make It Custom, everybody. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. If you're looking for another way to support, there's a $5 a month membership that you can do. It's called the Custom Crew. It's at the end of the video or in the description. And basically you get a badge by your name and you get a discount at the merch store of 15%, which if you're gonna get one of these Mother Tucker hammers, more than pays for like 6 months of your membership. So yeah, once again, much appreciated. Check out Bennett's Customs also, my friend Jordan in Australia. He's doing all kinds of really cool stuff right now and doing all kinds of metal shaping as well as rust repair and building a really cool traditional Model A Roadster. So yeah, check it out, Bennett's Customs as well, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good one.